All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Close. We are here today, Friday, January 31st, as we are officially ending out the first month of 2025. Now, the last time I saw you guys was on the market open. And on the market open, it was a relatively green day. We had two things happen that were very exciting. Number one, Palantir got to $85 for the first time ever in their history of being a public company, a new all-time high. Number two, NVIDIA was very close to getting to $128, a really amazing reversal from the 121 open that we had on NVIDIA. And things were fine and dandy. Things were pretty cool. I mean, the broader markets were happy. The S&P 500 was, I think, 0.23% away from getting to an all-time high. And as soon as that stream ended, we got a piece of news. And that news was not the best for markets. Now, right before the stream ended, we had a rumor from Reuters that came out that said that the Trump administration was going to delay the tariffs they're putting on Canada, Mexico, and China until March 1st. And stocks really started rallying. That was just at the end of the market open today, because if we're not going to get tariffs for another month, then that's great. Unfortunately, that was not true. It was a fake report, and the Trump administration came out today. They clarified, and tariffs are going live tomorrow.
Friends at Reuters are reporting that the president has made a decision on the Canada and Mexico tariffs, but that they won't actually be implemented until March 1st. I was wondering if you could confirm that and talk through some of the president's things.
I saw that report and it is false. I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
The president yesterday said that last night he was planning to discuss whether an exemption would be made on oil imports. Do you have any information on what decision he made there, or will there be exemptions at all offered under this?
I don't have an update or readout for you on the exemptions, but those tariffs will be for public consumption in about 24 hours tomorrow, so you can read them then.
Obviously, the market has not priced in tariffs. This is the one thing about the Trump administration that's just going to be one of those things that could literally move $400 billion in the equity markets within hours or within seconds at this point. The market doesn't like tariffs. The market likes a lot of stuff about Trump. You got Palantir right here at 83, still green on the day, but down from that high of 85.22. The market likes deregulation. The market likes the crypto stuff. The market just does not like the idea of tariffing our biggest allies. And so this whole idea that people have been rolling with, which is that, oh, it's a negotiation tactic. As per the White House press secretary, it's happening tomorrow. And on the White House's website, we will get an actual understanding of what is going to be tariffed, what is not going to be tariffed. Is it a 25% across the board? I would imagine oil is going to get excluded, but we're really going to have to find out tomorrow. And so we will get the exact details tomorrow. Now, maybe this tariff only lasts for a week because Trump is trying to get something out of Canada and Mexico and China. And if he gets some concessions, he'll reduce the tariffs from 25% to 15%, or he'll just get rid of it entirely. The point is no one knows. And another thing the market hates along with tariffs is uncertainty. The fact that we don't know what the exact tariff policy is going to be has led to equities taking a little bit of a dip. S&P 500 right here was green on the day. We are now at 602, so we're down about 0.5% as we get into the end of the day. TSM still green, Vertiv still green, ARM still green by about 3.6%. Robinhood did go red from 53.80 to 52.03, down 1.83%. Palantir again still green on the day, 83. It looks like we're probably going to get above an 82.50 close, hopefully an 83 close, but we are green even though we're down from 85. Tesla got hit. It was at 420, now back to 404. Still green on the day, but down after the tariff news. And then good old NVIDIA, which, by the way, Trump and Jensen are meeting literally right now. The meeting actually started at 2:30, so I don't know if the meeting's still going, but about an hour ago, the meeting started. We don't have an update on what they talked about. Hopefully, we'll get an update soon, a post from Trump. But NVIDIA is down at 120 after hitting 127.85, declining once this tariff news ended up coming out. So what did I do? I bought the dip. I bought 25 more shares of NVIDIA, and I bought 20 shares of Robinhood. So I just did last little. All right, here you go. Look, is the tariff dip going to be a real dip that shocks the entire market? I'll give you the bull and the bear case. The bear case is yes, because no one has an expectation or no one has a fully quantified understanding of the expectation of what tariffs will look like. Therefore, none of us know what to expect. And this thing can get a lot more red more quicker than what people expected. The bull case is that, dude, like, this is like, it's tariffs. Like, the administration said they were going to do tariffs. No one should be surprised that we're getting tariffs. The market's being incredibly emotional because they knew as soon as Trump won, like, why did the market go up so much when Trump won? Like, if you hated tariffs so much, then don't send the market up that much. I guess maybe the market thought he was bluffing, but if he wasn't bluffing, then the market has to price this in to an extent. Historically, a tariff dip is the dip to buy. That doesn't mean that the tariffs can't make the dip worse. But at this point, NVIDIA still holding on to its 200-day moving average. I don't know if we go back into the 110s or the low 100s because of tariffs. Maybe it does happen, but maybe it doesn't. Robinhood as well. I think about it at 52.20. It's at 52.11. I mean, it is what it is. We're going to have to see how this ends up playing out. But we will have greater clarity on the tariff discussion tomorrow when we get the actual notes. Let me know in the chat if you guys bought the dip, if you sold anything today, if you're doing anything different in regards to your portfolio. Shout out to Farzad. He's here right now. He says, what do you think Jensen and Trump are talking about? Wrong answers only. That's a great question for the chat. That's a great question for the chat. What do you think Jensen and Trump are talking about? Wrong answers only. I have no idea. I'm curious to see what the chat says, though. That's a hell of a question. Look, in terms of people that are upset with this whole dip, I mean, look, it was a Friday. It was green. It was really green with Palantir. We had a nice Karp interview. We got to analyze that interview, and Karp crushed it as usual. I don't think anyone expected the tariff news to come out at 1 p.m., especially after Reuters said that it was delayed till March 1st. But here we are. And you saw the White House press secretary. They are definitive on the idea that tariffs are happening tomorrow. Now, just as quickly they can implement them, they can take them away as well. So I really don't think this is just about fentanyl, at least with Canada. With China, it might be more about fentanyl. I think with Canada, there's something else that Trump wants. He's saying right now that it's about fentanyl. I think there's more to it than just fentanyl. So with Mexico, it probably is about fentanyl and more illegal immigration. But with Canada, which is one of our largest allies, I think there's something deeper here than just illegal drugs and immigration, maybe with Mexico and China, but we'll have to find out. This is going to be a soap opera for the next 4 years for us to figure out over the coming years and then position our portfolios accordingly. Bezos's wife. Oh my God, the answer should be great. Soy milk. They're talking about Grindr, how good Biden left the country. Oh, that's great. Maybe they're talking about tariffs. I mean, they have to be talking about tariffs. Bezos' wife is the best one. Can you ask Elon who is the wolf? Oh my gosh. Fart coin. It could be fart coin too. It could be that. Oh boy. All right. Well, regardless, that's what we got going on, and that's what has tanked the markets. We will have Steve coming on in about 20 minutes. He'll be live on the show. He'll give us his take on Apple. Oh, speaking of Apple, by the way, this sucker, it was up 5% on the day, went all the way back down as soon as the tariffs news came in. Got a little bit of a rebound right there from 233 to 235.7, but it is down 0.5% on the day. It was down about 1.5% earlier. And this is the new stock market that we live in. It's been a great month, and I don't think any of us can really complain. The month has been incredible, but even with an incredible month, tariffs can mess up a little bit of that performance in the month because the market doesn't like tariffs. And I thought the market has priced in tariffs. The market has obviously not priced in tariffs. The 10-year, by the way, the 10-year is up on this. Oh yeah, it's up a lot. Okay. I mean, not a lot compared to this week's decline, but it's a pretty decent move. 0.06 on the 10-year, 4.573. We were almost at 4.50, I think, yesterday. So that has moved. The dollar has to be up right now. The dollar, of course, is up 0.5%. And this is not the best for international stocks. So that dollar going higher on this tariff news is something we have to watch out for as well. Farzad, thank you for the $10 super chat. It is not my birthday. I appreciate it, though. Thank you for being here. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great weekend as well. Thank you, brother, for being here. Farzad just launched this new podcast called The GigaCast. I was watching a little bit of it earlier today, and it's all about Tesla, and he has a bunch of Tesla people that he talks to on this podcast. I'll link it right here in the chat for anyone that wants to watch it. And you guys can check it out, especially if you care about the world of Tesla, which I would imagine a bunch of you guys care about. So there's that podcast right there. You guys can check it out in the chat. Oh boy, new tariffs on oil, gas, and chips. Did Trump just say that? Hold on. Did he just say that 5 minutes before the market closed? Did he just have a meeting with Jensen and they came up with the idea to tariff oil and chips? Are you kidding me? What? That's what they talked about in the meeting? Oh, yeah. Here we go. Trump says he will put tariffs on oil and gas by February 18th and then tariffs on steel. That's breaking just now. What the heck did him and Jensen talk about in that meeting? Where's NVIDIA? NVIDIA not really tanking on this. I mean, NVIDIA actually rebounded from 119. I thought it would tank a little harder. S&P, is that down even worse? S&P, S&P's flat. I mean, look, if the stocks that were red, they're not going more red. At least not the S&P, not NVIDIA. And the stocks that were green, like TSM and ARM, they're holding their green. So it's not like this news is really getting us more red. We got 4 minutes left. It might just be coming into the algos. But that is a new headline just now. Okay, so new tariffs on oil and gas, tariffs on steel. XLE should be tanking. Yeah, XLE should be tanking. Not good for energy. Oh boy. All right. Yep, there you go. Down 2.8%. That one taking a nice little fall. Sunday futures are probably not going to like this. Monday, I don't know, is going to like this either. I mean, it's not really good news to go into the weekend. Definitely not news that creates any level of certainty. Look at Palantir. It's fighting to stay green for the day after hitting all-time highs. But see, even Palantir is susceptible to the algos. I'm just happy that Trump didn't announce this whole tariff thing during Karp's interview, because during Karp's interview, the stock was going up. Karp was crushing it. I mean, it was just awesome. I'm happy he at least waited an hour after the interview to announce these new tariffs. But again, Palantir, as much as people were buying it today, the algos will not allow a lot of stocks to go further in unison or isolated from the rest of the market, especially if they're high beta growth stocks, because tariffs at the end of the day theoretically can create more issues around inflation. Is that going to happen? It's yet to be seen, but at least that's what the market perception is. Microsoft right here is slightly green on the day. Rocket Lab is up 1.82%. Let's look at the Max 7. The Max 7 are green, but by a little bit. Google's up. Well, Google's up nicely, 1.5%. Amazon's up 1.34%. NVIDIA's down 3.6%. Tesla's up 1%. Apple's down 0.5%. And then Microsoft right here basically flat on the day. Where's Oklo on this news? Oklo is red, flat. And then I would imagine NNE nuclear stock is also, that's down 4%. There you go. Trump says, I want to bring back pharmaceuticals back to America with tariffs. Is Trump live right now? That's how these headlines are probably. I think Trump's live right now. I think that's what's happening. He's signing some executive orders, if I'm not wrong. No, he's not. He's not. Okay, so is he might be tweeting about this on Truth Social or something. I think he is going to be signing executive orders soon, so Trump might go live in a bit. But I guess everyone's getting all these different headlines right now. Oh boy. All right, here we go. We got 50 seconds left until we close out the day. Truth Social. All right, I'll pull up the tweets on Truth Social and we'll read them in a second. It looks like that's creating some of the pain that we're seeing right now on the day. Farzad says Trump's tariff strategy makes sense. U.S. debt deficit is legitimately a huge issue. If Trump can bring business back to the U.S. and repeal income tax and raise money through tariffs and business revenue, then taxpayer wins are going to be huge. Yeah, I agree. I think the jury's out on tariffs being horrible or tariffs being amazing, but I think there's both sides to an argument that makes sense here. The question is just what the market's perception is going to be in the short term, which is why I bought the dip. I was just like, okay, this is stupid. Like, if we're really going to tank on tariffs, maybe we tank more. But I am going to buy that tariff dip. Now, the question is, how is the market going to perceive that tariff dip over the next coming months? And eventually we'll figure it out. Maybe it's a nothing burger. Maybe it's a lot more. But we will all be here together to see how this ends up playing out. All right, Friday, January 31st, 4 p.m. We have officially ended the first month of trading in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, the stock market is now closed. All right, let's put this in the chat. What are your month-to-date returns? I'm going to look at mine right now. We ended at 18%. So in the morning, it was 18%. We ended at 18.19%. You can put in the chat your returns. I'll tell you guys the biggest winners and losers in my portfolio in a second, but 18.19% for January, which I can't complain about. Like, I don't know how anyone could complain about that, but we got to see if we can continue this momentum throughout 2025. S&P 500 ends the day down 0.5%. Nvidia ends the day down 3.6%. S&P down about 0.5%. Palantir 82.49 close up 1.56%. Robinhood 51.95 close down about 2% on the day. TSM was up 0.5%. VRT was up 2%. Archer was up 1.83%. Tesla was up 1%. Bitcoin 101. Bitcoin hated this as well. I forgot to mention Bitcoin went from 105 to 101 today. So Bitcoin did not like this news about tariffs. Rocket Lab up 1.82%. HIMS was up 9%. Wow. HIMS still ended 9% green, 9.8% green, even with all this stuff about tariffs. Incredible day for HIMS, dude. If you're a HIMS shareholder, congrats. That's an incredible day, even with the tariff news. Amazon right here up 1.3%. You had SoFi down 4%. I don't know why SoFi took that big of a hit. I don't know what the hell tariffs have to do with SoFi. That was just weird seeing SoFi take that hit. Nvidia down 3.6, and then you got Palantir right here up 1.56% on the day. Nike as well was down about 1.86%, and then Reddit right here was up 0.25%. Shopify was down 2.02% on the day. Okay, let's read what you guys have in the chat. I see a lot of 5%, 17%, 12%, 10%, 10%. Yeah, pretty much that 15 to 20% is, I'm seeing the average right here in the chat. 16%, 2%, 3%, 10%, 7%, 39%. Some people were loaded up on Oklo, I can see. I mean, dude, if you were loaded up on Oklo or HIMS or something, it's not unbelievable that you had a good January. I mean, even Palantir, right? Like Palantir went from 65 to 82 in January. So there have been some really big winners in January, even if there have been some really bad losers as well. Zocol, 13%, Eddie, 13.9%, Scott at 18%, Nicholas at 9%. Yeah, pretty much, I would say the average is around that, I would say 15% if we really took an average of everything. I do see some negatives here as well. So some of you guys might have been in some stocks that just got hit badly. I mean, if you're obviously heavy Nvidia, that one definitely got hit. So here's how my portfolio did. 18.14% for the month. The biggest winners were Palantir, Robinhood, and Reddit. Reddit, I got at 164. So Reddit actually for the month was up 21% for me. And then I guess you can call Google a winner. I mean, that's up 5%, but I mean, it's green and we bought a decent amount of it via options and stock a couple of the options last week and then stock a couple of days ago. Biggest winners I would say are Reddit, Hood, Palantir, and then I guess you could give a little bit to Google. Biggest losers are Nvidia, obviously. Nvidia, I am down 5% on the position, but still it's because I averaged down because it was at 139 originally my average. And SoFi. Nvidia and SoFi. And then Grab was flat. So winners were Palantir, Hood, Google, and Reddit. Losers were SoFi, Nvidia. And then flat for me was Snapchat, Rocket Lab, and Grab. Rocket Lab up like 0.83%. So flat for me was Rocket Lab, Snapchat, and Grab. The biggest winners of the portfolio, still carrying it like 2024, Palantir and Hood. Palantir and Hood. So there you go. That's what we got. Snapchat, yes, I bought Snapchat as a swing trade. It's not really part of the portfolio, but it's like as a swing, and we bought it at like 1070. It's at 1130 right now, so I would say that's flat for the month. So basically, if you were in Palantir, HIMS, Rocket Lab, Hood, and I don't know what's another stock that exploded because I mean Hood. Look, I mean Hood. It's up 35% for the month. HIMS is up like 40%. Palantir's still up a good 10%. There are some ARM. If you got into ARM at the lows, that's up. Reddit is up nicely. What is a Nubank? If you got into Nubank, that's done very well for you. And this thing is up 30% in a month. It was $10. Now it's 13, right? So we've seen some of these names do very, very well, even if the broader market and the indices did not do as well. Oh, Meta. Yeah, if I had Meta, portfolio would have done. I mean, I have 5 shares of Meta, but it's like not really a big position. Meta right here, 689.18. Meta up 0.32% for the day and up about 17% for the year. Some of your guys' biggest winners. I see a lot of Metas in the chat. I see some Hoods. I see some Oklos. A lot of that has done well. I see some new banks. I see some Baba. Yeah, if you had Baba, I mean, that's another part. If you were diversified in China, Baba did well for January. It actually was down 4% on the day, but for the month, I think this thing is up like 10%. Way more, 16.5% for the month, even with the 4% decline today. Apple and Tesla, I would say Apple was a loser. Tesla, it depends on when you got in. If you got in at 420, it's a loser. If you got in at like 368 a couple days ago, it's a winner, or even 380, it's a decent winner. But a lot of the Max 7 definitely did struggle a bit. Google and Amazon starting to outperform a bit towards the end of the month. Google right here, 204, and then Amazon almost at all-time highs at 237 here right now. Oh, JetBlue, yeah, if anyone had JetBlue, that one also got crushed. It's up 4% today, but it was down 22% on their earnings. MasterCard right here was down about 1.83%, and then AMD was down. Oh yeah, AMD, tough month for them as well, down 2.45%. Really, a lot of the semis outside of Broadcom, if you got the dip on Broadcom, have been relatively red for the month. Even SMCI, dude. SMCI was up 10% today, and then Trump announced tariffs, ended the day down 0.42%. Okay, let's ask another question right here. Someone suggested this in the chat. This is a good idea. What percentage of your portfolio is now cash? I'm at like 3%. It was 30% in the beginning of January, which is part of the reason that I had a good month in January, up 18%, is because I started to deploy a lot of cash after CPI came out. But maybe that might not be the best idea going into February, right? I mean, February might have a whole host of volatility that we didn't experience in January. And so I guess the broader market will tell us what happened. One thing that I know for a fact, earnings have been incredible. Growth has been phenomenal. Inflation is definitively coming down, or at least stabilizing. We saw that with the PCE data. And the labor market is not in the worst space and not in the worst spot in terms of the jobless claims. So outside of the tariffs, which are unpredictable to kind of understand what the implications of those are going to be, a few details that we have, the broader macro thesis around CPI coming down, inflation coming down, and earnings growth is intact. Now, what really threw the month off for a spin was this DeepSeek stuff, which I think is stupid, but we're going to have to see how the market reacts to that going into the rest of 2025. I see about 10 to 15% cash average, 10 to 15%. That's what I'm seeing. A couple of you guys are in the 20% cash. A couple of you guys are a little bit below 10%, but 10 to 15% seems average for everybody, which is, I think that's reasonable. I don't think that's crazy. And hopefully February doesn't give us some insane dips, but if it does, seems like most people have cash on the side to deploy a bit of it. Let's get the professor's perspective, Jeremy Siegal, on everything that's going on right here. And then we will keep going from there. We'll get Steve on in a little bit, and we'll get his perspectives as well about the markets.
I'm selected for a jury and we're ready to go. Lawyer comes in the last minute and said, hey, we have a settlement, and we all leave. I can't guarantee that, but the art of the deal for Trump. Let's push him to the edge and see what happens. But clearly, if it is 25-25 and then 10 on China, that is a negative impact on the economy and I think on stock prices.
But then why do you have people like Jamie Dimon, who I think it was in Davos, said, get over it, essentially, as it relates to tariffs? Lutnick, as I said, the proposed Commerce Secretary, saying the notion that these are just across the board inflationary is nonsense.
Well, it's not nonsense. There is some positive effect. Is it a disastrous effect on prices? Probably not. I mean, I've seen some research that suggests if all those tariffs come in, and don't forget, trade is only 10% of GDP, and if all those tariffs come in, it might raise the price level by 0.5 or 0.75%, and that's a one-time increase. So, I wouldn't call that disastrous, but that certainly reorganizes supply chains, all sorts of sourcing situations. And it really depends on how long it lasts. I mean, if he puts it on Saturday, I think a lot of people are going to defer for a few days, and then he could reverse it on Monday or Tuesday if another concession is wrangled from Mexico and these other countries. So it's a bargaining tool. Are you going to get enough in exchange for the negative effect of the tariff in and of itself? And I don't think this play is over yet.
Been a wild week, to say the least, given the DeepSeek story, the headlines, the sell-off in tech, what happened earlier in this week, and where we are now. So how does that color your opinion of the stock market here?
Well, I think that, cheaper is better for the economy. Cheaper is better for any AI user. What cheaper isn't better for are
We got another quote from Trump. He says he will absolutely put tariffs on the EU. He says he will absolutely put tariffs on the EU. By the way, oil prices are up 0.5% on the day. They are the highest of the day, even after hours, based on these comments on putting tariffs on oil. I don't know where he's saying this stuff. It's not on Truth Social. He's not live on a press conference, so I don't know where these quotes are coming from, but they must be coming from somewhere. Trump right now, I absolutely will put tariffs on the EU.
perhaps the high-end chip producers. Of course, we all think of NVIDIA as that. And, I'm not an expert in tech. I've been hearing all sorts of stories. Can advanced AI be done on DeepSeek's program? Does it mean advanced AI can be done without the Blackwell chips? I mean, all these questions need to be answered. Autonomous driving, robots, all that. Can that be done with DeepSeek type of transformation? So I think there's still a lot of questions out there. The basic thing is certainly anything cheaper AI-wise is good for the U.S. economy and good overall for the U.S. market.
Yeah, you may not be an expert, as you say, in AI and tech, although you sound well versed. I will just give you that. And you are an expert, Professor Siegal, on stock market valuations.
A couple more quotes. Trump says we'll be doing something very substantial on tariffs with the European Union. Trump says he is not concerned about the market's reaction towards tariffs. He says he is not concerned with the market's reaction towards tariffs, and he will impose tariffs on the EU. He must be speaking to some reporters right now. He's not live, but this is what the terminal is giving us in terms of these quotes.
To which the Fed chair himself this week, when asked directly about economic conditions, financial conditions, called valuations stretched by almost any measure. Now, he was zeroing in, of course, on tech and on AI and those stocks that have done quite well. But what was your view on that comment?
Well, we talk about 22 as a forward-looking PE on S&P. I mean, Mag 7, which is the 493 other stocks, it's around 19, which I don't think is an unreasonable PE given the entire economy. So the question is, can the Mag 7, which has done unbelievably brilliantly over the last 2, 3, 5, 10 years, maintain its prominence? And of course, what happened Monday says, well, maybe margins can't stay as high for some of them. But then again, some of these others are going to be users of it and actually have gone up after the DeepSeek. So not all Mag 7 is going to be negatively affected. So yes, Mag 7 is a singular event. We've never had it in the 200-year history of the U.S.
So again, Jeremy Siegal kind of making the argument that, hey, DeepSeek should actually be bullish for more chip consumption, but it is going to shake up some of these equity valuations. Here we go. We have a little coverage on tariffs.
Off of the wires as they're coming. So what we're learning now is that President Trump says nothing can forestall those tariffs from taking effect on Canada, Mexico, and China sometime tomorrow. It'll be 25% on Canada and Mexico and 10% on goods imported from China. On oil and gas specifically, he says that Canadian oil, there will be an exception here. The tariff on Canadian oil will be down to 10% instead of 25%. He also said that broadly, he's looking at imposing oil and gas tariffs by February 18th. And then he's talking a lot about tariffs overall. He mentioned steel, aluminum, copper, pharmaceuticals, and the entire European Union as areas where he's considering future tariffs, though no specifics on those just yet. And then a couple other topics coming up here as well, John, in addition to the tariffs. He did meet earlier today with NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. Trump calls him a gentleman, said they had a great meeting. We know that they were talking about artificial intelligence policy and that it was meant to be a sort of introductory meeting between the two men. So Trump saying now that it was a good meeting and we can potentially get more on that as well. John?
All right, Megan, yes, I'm hearing.
I love how he said he's a gentleman. I had a great meeting. And then after the meeting, he tells reporters, yeah, so we're going to put some tariffs on chips. How does that affect NVIDIA? I don't fully know. I would imagine it's a bit of a headwind. Potentially might not be based on the specific ways that those tariffs are implemented. I don't think the market fully understands it, but their go-to assumption would be to sell, right? Because they don't want to find out and hold in the red. So that's where we're seeing some of the volatility that we're experiencing right now. NVIDIA actually up a little bit after hours. So holding the 200-day moving average very nicely. As soon as that breaks, that's when I think bears can claim a little bit more of the victory lap. But you got to really break that 200-day in order for the bears to think that it's going much lower than the 116 level it bottomed at a couple days ago. Pouncer right here at 82.73 after hours. Robin is up a little bit after hours. TSM's down 1/3%. ARM's down 1/3%. Exxon Mobil, I would imagine, is down after hours. No, that's up a little bit. It was down on the day, down 2.5%, up slightly after hours. Well, if you had covered calls, I mean, towards the end of the day, some of those covered calls printed. So that wasn't the worst thing in the world. But yeah, I mean, look, still, it's hard to feel super upset about this because the broader markets did great in January. I mean, like, still, the SPX for the month ended up 3%. I mean, that's incredible. Like I'll take that every single month if I could get it. We're not going to get up 3% every month, but if you could, 36% a year would be amazing. So the fact that we ended up 3%, even with all the volatility, is good. I guess the perception now is going to be, can February maintain all of this volatility and still handle the broader implications of inflation that a lot of people think is going to be harder with tariffs, and earnings growth if tariffs actually do affect earnings? Will they affect earnings? I don't know. But is there a world in which some companies start lowering their forecast because of these tariffs? Maybe. Maybe. Is there a world in which tariffs actually become super effective and they become a really good bargaining chip and that actually gets people into the door and Trump can fulfill his campaign promises? Maybe, but no one knows. And the fact that no one knows is why we're seeing the current volatility that we are seeing right now. Let's put a poll in the chat. Let's get your guys' perception on tariffs right here and see what you guys are thinking. Question will be, tariffs good or bad going into February? Or I should say bullish or bearish going into February. And if you pick bullish, it's not that tariffs necessarily are bullish, but it's that it doesn't matter, right? It's that, all right, whatever. We have tariffs, but that's not going to stop the broader bull market trend that we're seeing right now. Trump is going to talk now. Let's see. Is he live? It looks like he's about to go live. He's not live yet. I have it pulled up. I don't have him live yet. Okay, here we go. Got some more coverage on the tariffs. Let's pull this up right here. I think Trump should be going live very soon, though.
Economic Council during the first Trump administration. Joe, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
We got the president talking right now about these tariffs. We also had Phil Gramm and Larry Summers, not normally op-ed fellows, in the Journal this morning talking about the dangers of tariffs as a general tool for economic policy. Why are you so convinced they're not inflationary if we're not exactly sure what they're going to look like yet?
Okay, so let's hear this take. This guy thinks tariffs are going to be fine and not really going to matter for the markets.
Because, John, inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. And if you don't get expansive money and credit creation, you can't have inflation. So a tariff is a price level adjustment. And the problem I had with today's piece in the Journal, it highlighted Smoot-Hawley. The environment was completely different then. The U.S. had been running 1 to 2%, 3% trade surpluses as a share of GDP. So by implementing tariffs, it was a self-inflicted wound. Today, it's the exact opposite. We're running 4% budget deficit, trade deficits as a share of GDP. So the environment is completely different.
Well, when most, I think, folks in the U.S.
I'm not going to lie, guys. I have no idea what he just said. Like, I have to listen to that again over the weekend, and I'll try to give you guys something else. I have no idea what he just said and why tariffs are not inflationary.
U.S. consumers think about inflation. They think about prices being higher. President Trump did just say tariff costs are sometimes passed along to consumers. So, money supply aside, if prices go up for consumers, as a result of this? Is that a problem?
Here's the thing, John. What happens is the tariff is being used in conjunction with a lot of the other pillars to the Trump economic plan. So the tariff is an incentive to keep U.S. production here, at the same time to relocate production outside into the U.S. And the reason, other than the tariff being the initial incentive, is low and cheap energy costs, deregulation, and lower corporate tax rates on production from 21% to 15%. The tariffs will raise revenue. That will allow us to keep marginal tax rates lower. So the net effect on U.S. Households should be positive, not negative.
I want to get into the oil and gas tariff piece of this specifically, because we also know since January 20th, President Trump has unleashed a wave of executive orders tied to reigniting energy production in this country, looking at things like pipelines and infrastructure, and basically, to your point, trying to drive inflation lower by making energy more accessible and more affordable. When you slap tariffs on other countries that import a lot of oil to us, what does that do, especially given the fact that I would imagine there are going to be geopolitical implications to this too, which are not necessarily negative?
Yes. I mean, look, if you look at the economy, energy is about 13% of GDP. Imports are 11%. But the thing with energy is that you've got a lot of indirect effects. So if energy prices go from 75-ish a barrel down into the mid to high 50s, as they were under President Trump's first term, you'll lose at least, I calculate, at least half a point on your headline inflation rate. You lose another 80 basis points from all the indirect effects that lower energy costs have in terms of production, distribution of goods, services, airfares, all those sorts of things will come down dramatically. Because the U.S. is the consumer of last resort, the U.S. is in a much stronger negotiating standpoint vis-a-vis our other trading partners. And with respect to China, whom we have the largest deficit with, the U.S. economy is very strong. The Chinese economy is very weak. It's a totally different situation from 8 years ago. Look at the Chinese bond market. They're telling you growth is significantly weakening. It's much softer than the official figures show. So again, when we look at tariffs, they got to be looked at holistically. They have to be looked at as a negotiation tool. They have to be looked at as a source for revenue. And to me, when it's approached that way, and not just narrowly focused, which so many economists are focusing on, looking at that narrow sliver, in totality, they make a lot of sense.
How are you factoring in changes to population and to workforce?
The argument I'm getting is that we will outgrow any inflation from tariffs. I'm going to have to watch this again to try to get the broader thesis, but that's kind of what I'm taking away. If we get more growth, the tariffs won't have that much of an issue.
Because we are starting to see the immigration crackdowns on illegal immigration this week, sweeps in major cities and places across the country. You also have economists who are saying this too is going to be inflationary.
Well, I mean, again, people kind of forgot the lessons from Milton Friedman. Again, money supply and credit growth are what cause inflation. That's what happened during the last 4 years. We had a massive increase, historic increase in government spending, and then the Fed monetized it. With respect to immigration, labor force participation is slowing. The BLS reported that they've overstated employment by 800,000 workers. So this notion somehow that we're going to run out of workers through immigration is just complete pie in the sky. It doesn't make any sense.
Joe LaFornia, great to get your thoughts. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. I guess the jury's out on what tariffs are going to do, but eventually I guess we will find out for ourselves how tariffs will impact the broader economy. I think Trump's going to go live in a bit. Let's bring on a guest to the show. We will tune into what Trump has to say live in just a bit. But because it's Friday on the market close, we always have one of our favorite guests on the channel. We'll get his take on Apple, the Fed, tariffs, NVIDIA, all that good stuff. Steven, what's up? What's up? Steve definitely has an echo. You there? Of course. Let me text him. You have an echo, sir. You have an echo. He's probably in the car right now trying to figure out how to get this to work. Let's see. Yeah, it's still. Let me tell him to rejoin. He's done this many times. He's done this for like 10 weeks in a row. He should know how to do this by now. Rejoin and try again. Okay, so we'll get Steve on. Steve ran away from the tariff. I can tell you what Steve's going to say about the tariffs. He's going to say it doesn't matter. He's going to say, who cares? He's going to try. You know what Steve wanted to really do on the show today? I know Steve. I know he wanted to take his victory lap on Apple because it was up 5% during the day. Unfortunately, Donnie T put some tariffs on and Apple gave it all back. So you can't really do that and expect Apple to still be up 5%. Dude, where is Trump having this meeting right now? Trump's like talking to some journalist. That's why the terminal is reporting all these quotes. Oh, he's live. He's live right now. Okay, so he'll probably answer some questions right here. Is he live? He's live. Hold on. Let's see if I can pull this up. He'll probably be answering a lot more of these questions here. I guess he was talking to some journalists, and that's how the terminal got these quotes as well. Okay, I have a live feed of him, but he's frozen on my live feed. He's frozen on my live feed. So he's not there. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Is that a real brick wall? Yes, it's as real as the tariffs that are going to be implemented tomorrow. So very, very real. Also, you guys are mean because I just Googled what a lot of you guys were saying in the chat. First of all, you guys are mean, okay? When I talk about cyberbullying, Megamind, you guys are mean. Just saying it right now. You guys are mean. It is... it's just at this point, you can't deny how mean you guys are. Yeah, he's not live. He's not live, but he's about to go live, but he's not live yet. Let me see if Steve is back. Let's see. Steve, you there?
Yep.
All right. What's up? Happy Friday.
Yeah, it's not so happy with Friday because the market shook about tariffs.
The market is shook about tariffs, so we got a lot to talk about. Your raw take on Trump wanting to put tariffs. What do you think?
I don't really care. It is what it is. Everybody knew this was going to happen. I don't know why everybody's acting like this is a surprise. Like, did people not think he wasn't going to do this? I mean, I don't think it doesn't change anything for so many companies.
So first of all, I just want to say, I told you guys in the chat that Steve would say, literally, I don't care. So thank you, Steve, for vindicating me. I said he would literally say, I don't care. And that's what he said. But number two, I agree, bro. I thought tariffs were priced in. I guess not. I guess they're not.
There's going to be exclusions. I mean, what are we worried about? If people aren't going to be able to get maple syrup from Canada? Oh, no. Get it from Vermont.
Well, hold on, Steve. This seems a lot more serious than just maple syrup. At least that's how the market's reacting to it. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I bought more NVIDIA today as soon as he announced the tariffs. I kind of didn't care. But if he chooses to go forward with this on Canada at 25%, especially on Canada and Mexico, our biggest partners, it does feel like the market's not going to love this.
Yeah, I mean, once again, he discussed this on the campaign trail, discussed this his first couple of weeks when he got elected, and he's been talking about since he took office. I don't think that he has given us any reason to think that he is bluffing, considering we had 4 years with him in the White House, and he really doesn't bluff. He's a deal maker, and if he doesn't get his way, or if he doesn't get the outcome he wants, he goes forward with what he wants to do. And to think that he wasn't going to go forward with tariffs when he's been talking about and surrounding himself with people who agree with it is crazy.
So why do you think the market's reacting like this then?
I don't know. I saw it when I left the office. I don't know. Who knows? Whatever. I don't think it really changes anything for the biggest companies in the country. I really don't.
I don't either. So it's confusing, dude, because the market is so driven by these narratives.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Are people going to stop advertising on Meta because of tariffs? Are people going to stop using search and stop paying for YouTube Premium? It's just, are people going to stop paying for cloud services? The answer is no. So I don't think I think it's a nothing burger.
But I don't think that's the concern. The concern is they're going to be inflationary and we're not going to get rate cuts. That's the issue.
We'll see.
I mean, because like if that, I mean, look, I don't know if they're going to be inflationary or not. There's a debate on both sides on if that's going to happen or not. But that's what I think people are concerned about. More, not really people will stop paying for YouTube Premium, but will inflation expectations just go higher and higher, you know? Okay, so let's talk about this stock real quick before we get into Apple, because we got a lot to talk about there. NVIDIA, Jensen and Trump had a meeting today. Trump said the meeting went well. As an NVIDIA shareholder, any thoughts on that meeting?
It's always good when the president says a meeting went well. It's better than if he came out and said it went bad, right?
Yeah, what's funny to me is he said it went well, and then an hour later he says, all right, we're putting some tariffs on chips. It's like, okay.
Well, yeah, because they don't want China getting their hands on these things. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I would agree. This comment as well by Rick says, what Amit is implying is that the market may not have taken Trump seriously when he was campaigning. Yeah, I mean, that is also fair. Although the market should know that Trump's not bluffing about tariffs, maybe the market didn't take him seriously. It didn't help when Reuters put out a report this morning that tariffs are delayed till March. That probably pissed Trump off because he wants the market, or not the market, but he wants the world to take him seriously about tariffs. And maybe that's why they rushed to make sure that they were going to get it out by February 1st.
Look, he is going to use the stock market as a gauge to how well his presidency is going. Okay. Short-term fluctuations is going to occur. I don't think that this is going to matter in 3 months from now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's talk about Apple. Trump, by the way, guys, is not live. If he does go live, we'll try to see what he's saying and if he's answering questions, but he is not live yet. So you wrote an article on Apple somehow within 24 hours of earnings. I don't know how you do this.
Before we get to that, I'm going to give you some credit. Credit. Because you said something that happened. You predicted something with Apple.
What did I predict?
I saw a report that they're going to stop making these glasses. Is that true?
Oh, that was on my list of questions to ask you. Yes, I did see that report.
Oh, congratulations. You were correct. It looks like it's a flop.
You know, I wanted this to feel better than what it feels like right now. I'm happy I get the win on this, but I'm not that happy because like I want Apple to do well because that's good for the economy. You know, it's a fun debate we have, but it's not like I'm short Apple. I don't make any money off this if it goes down. So yeah, that is a report right here from Bloomberg. Apple has canceled a project to build advanced AR glasses that would pair with its devices, making a major retreat as it struggles to create a mainstream hit post Vision Pro. The device, codenamed N107, was initially planned to pair with an iPhone before shifting to a Mac due to battery and processing limitations. Apple is still working on underlying AR tech, but for now, its roadmap for consumer-friendly AR hardware remains uncertain. That means Meta has likely won this challenge with Apple.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge for Meta. I believe it's going to be big, and I think Apple's making a big mistake not deploying resources toward this and going full tilt. I think I think the idea of everything staying on a screen over the next 5 to 10 years is crazy, and I think that holograms and AR and VR are going to be very big in the future. And I think Apple is making a long-term mistake by doing this, and they are handing the game to Zuckerberg right now.
Steve, I will get back to you in literally, call it 5 minutes. Trump is live. Let's just listen to what he's saying, and then I'll get back to you and we'll continue the discussion about Apple.
I think the people that love me most in the whole world are people that make steel. But we're going to be putting sometime this month, next month, we're going to be putting tariffs on steel and aluminum. And we'll give you an announcement as to what the exact date is. But it'll be a tremendous amount of money for our country, a tremendous amount. These are big numbers. And in addition to that, and you see the power of the tariff. I mean, the tariff is good, and nobody can compete with us because we have by far the biggest piggy bank. And so that'll take place very quickly. But also we'll be doing pharmaceuticals. And to bring our industry back, we want to bring pharmaceuticals back to the country. And the way you bring it back to the country is by putting up a wall, and the wall is a tariff wall. We were the richest country in the world. We were at our richest from 1870 to 1913. That's when we were a tariff country. And then they went to an income tax concept, and How did that work out? It's fine. I mean, it's okay, but would have been very much better. So we'll be doing pharmaceuticals, importantly, and drugs, medicines, etc. All forms of medicine and pharmaceuticals. And we'll be doing, very importantly, steel. And we'll also be doing chips and things associated with chips.
And sir, what do you plan on talking with the Japanese Prime Minister about next Friday when you all meet?
Well, he's coming in next week. I don't know who he is for a meeting, and I have great respect for Japan. I like Japan. Prime Minister Abe was a very close friend of mine. What happened to him was so sad, one of the saddest days. But they're coming in to speak to me, and I look forward to it.
Mr. President, on the crash, do you have any concerns that your commentary about things you have described as common sense or your observations could in any way interfere with the thorough investigation of the crash?
No, I think they'll do an investigation. It'll probably come out the way I said it. I like to put it up front. I'm so tired of listening to things happen to our country, and then people say, we'll do an investigation, and 3 years later, they come out with a report that nobody looks at. Especially, not in all cases can you do that, but in this case, you had a helicopter that was, the Black Hawk was too high. It was above the 200 limit by double. Shouldn't have been there. And there were some other mistakes made too, and I pointed them out also, and I was right on all of it, but they'll still do an investigation just to check it out. But I think
As
that's
Commander-in-Chief, are you at all concerned about opining about the Army and the conduct of that aircraft when you are Commander-in-Chief and these are the people who report to you
No.
and there's an investigation ongoing?
This was all caused by bad rules, regulations, and other things by Biden, the
What
Biden
tells you that,
administration. And when you look at the way they ran things, in fact, if you look, we hired, one of the first things I told them to do, I said, get talented people in those beautiful towers overlooking runways. You better get them in there fast because we don't have people there that are qualified. And you knew that because planes were landing very, very late. They were circling all over the place. We had people that didn't know what the hell they were doing.
And so there are planes in the air everywhere, and there are other air traffic. Pardon me, sir.
We have to have the best people, the smartest people, the sharpest people as control tower experts. And that's what they have to be. They have to be experts and they have to be very smart. And we didn't have our best. And if you read the quote that I read yesterday at the news conference, it talked about people that were psychologically injured were okay, and people that had lots of problems were okay. I'd read it again if you'd like me to, but I don't think I have to waste your time.
Does that give you concern, though, sir, with planes in the air all around the country, people relying on that as safety? Are you suggesting there's an ongoing risk?
No, I think there's very little risk, but I think that we have to make sure that this never happens again. Very, very little risk. And we're taking actions that this can't happen again. The helicopter, as you know, was out of its zone. Shouldn't have been out of its zone. It was at the same height as the airplane. Now, the airplane was coming down on its track. It was perfect. It was in perfect shape coming down, and something was in its way. You can't let that happen. And it won't be happening again. And this was all because of weak rules in the Biden administration. And we're just not going to let that kind of thing happen again. And again, I could wait and I could, give a report in 2 years like they always do. And sometimes it's obvious. In this case, to me, it was very obvious. And I think I've been proven to be very correct. Yeah.
What do you expect from your meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu next week?
I expect a lot of good things. From all meetings, I expect good things. Marco Rubio, as you know, is going to make a tour of various countries in South America. He's going to be meeting in Panama, where Panama's treated us very badly. They gave him rather be meeting in Panama, where Panama's treated us very badly. They gave him rather foolishly a thing called the Panama Canal, the most expensive project we ever built. If you look at today's numbers, most expensive ever built. We lost 38,000 men. In that case, all men, just about all men. 38,000 to the mosquito, to malaria and various other problems that you get from jungles. It was a tremendously costly event. We built the Panama Canal 110 years ago. Think of it, the most expensive development we ever did. And really one of the wonders of the world, one of the great wonders of the world. And We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama. And Panama's been ripping down all the China language signs. They've been working like mad to try, but about 70% of the signs were up and they were written in Chinese, and that's not the deal. So we're going to take it back. They've already offered to do many things, but we think it's appropriate that we take it back. They've totally violated the agreement. We have an agreement. They violated the agreement, and Marco Rubio's going over there to talk to the gentleman that's in charge.
Mr. Secretary, do you still think it's a good idea for Jordan and Egypt to be taking in Palestinians when they reject the idea and the Palestinians who are living now in Egypt?
I think Jordan will take people, people from Gaza. And I think Egypt will take them also. I mean, I heard somebody said they're not going to, but I think they will. I feel confident they will.
Mr. President, will tomorrow's tariffs include oil?
What?
Will tomorrow's tariffs be inclusive of Canadian crude?
I'm probably going to reduce the tariff a little bit on that. We think we're going to bring it down to 10% on the oil. So it's 25% on the Canada side.
Mr. President, are these tariffs stacking on top of already existing tariffs? Or
Yes,
this will be the
on top of whatever may be existing.
Mr.
Mr. President, ask you a question about Venezuela. Rick Cornell was seen on state TV shaking hands with President Maduro. Is there any concern that that might lend legitimacy to the Maduro administration?
No, we want to do something with Venezuela. I've been a very big opponent of Venezuela and Maduro. They've treated us not so good, but they've treated, more importantly, the Venezuelan people very badly. We have tremendous Venezuelan population. I got 92% of the vote, the Venezuelan vote. Now we want to see what we can do to get people back in their homeland safe and free and all. He's meeting with a lot of different people, but we are for the people of Venezuela. We're for the Venezuelan Americans. If you look at it, we have them all in Florida, right around the Doral area. That's really, they call it Little Venezuela, right? And they voted for me close to 100%. So we'll see what we can do to straighten out the situation in Venezuela. Venezuela has been very unfortunate. I was very surprised when I saw that Biden agreed to buy a lot of oil from Venezuela, because Venezuela was just about finished, the dictator. And when that happened, it brought him back to life. You know, Biden went out and they buy millions of barrels of oil. I say, what's that all about? So we're not going to let that stupid stuff happen. So we'll see what happens. We're not happy with Venezuela. We don't like the way they've treated the Venezuelans at all.
Mr. President, there have been some warnings or messages that government websites will be shut down this evening to scrub them of DEI content. Can you confirm if that's accurate?
Shut down?
Government websites, will be shut down this evening to scrub them of DEI content. Can you confirm whether that's accurate and if there are any concerns?
I don't know. It doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. DEI would have ruined our country, and now it's dead. I think DEI is dead. So if they want to scrub the websites, that's okay with me. But I can't tell you. I guess probably certain people handle it certain ways. But I'll tell you who's very happy about it: the military. The real leaders, the real generals in the military, they're very happy about it. Doug is very happy about it. He's got a big group of people that are going to be working for him, are really starting right now. He just got signed up, and they're very happy about it. He had a lot of DEI. Everybody did, but he has not been a fan. It was really hurting our country badly. It's costing a lot of money too. You see the kind of money we're talking about? Hundreds of millions of dollars for nonsense. Now we have our country back now. Our country is back, and it's a nice thing to say. I've never seen such love. I've never had anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. People are coming up, sir, thank you for bringing our country back. We were losing our country, and I think we're stronger now than we've been in many, many decades.
And the department update on your call with Vladimir Putin.
Well, we'll be speaking. We'll be speaking, and I think we'll perhaps do something that'll be significant. We want to end that war. That war would have never started if I was president, and we want to end that war. That war is a horrible war. Millions of young people are being killed, mostly on the lines now, mostly soldiers. But the cities have been largely destroyed, many of them. They're like demolition sites. but the soldiers are just shooting at each other. You know, it's a very flat land. I said this the last time, very, very flat land. The only place that a bullet stops is when it hits a person. And they're hitting a lot of people. They're hitting a lot of soldiers, but on both sides. You know, I think Russia would probably say close to 800,000, and Ukraine 600,000 or 700,000. And it's just a senseless situation, and it's got to stop. So whatever I can do to stop it, and we are having discussions. Yes,
Ongoing, already scheduled and ongoing? Have you-
already talking. Yes.
So you've already spoken to Vladimir Putin
I don't want to
since.
say that, but we are having very serious
Is
discussions.
there a reason you
about,
don't want to?
We are. Well, I just don't want to say that. We're having very serious discussions about that war, trying to get it ended.
With Russia.
With Russia, yeah.
At the Department of Justice.
Wow. So Trump saying he's had discussions with Russia and they're trying to get this war to be an end. Obviously, that would be a major catalyst for humanity for that war to end soon. But I guess we'll see if we'll get updates on that in February.
In the FBI, there are a number of high-level people who are being asked to resign or are being told they are going to be fired. Did you specifically request any actions at the Bureau or DOJ with respect to those employees?
No, but we have some very bad people over there. It was weaponized at a level that nobody's ever seen before. They came after a lot of people, like me, but they came after a lot of people. No, I wasn't involved in it. I'll have to see what is exactly going on after this is finished. But if they fired some people over there, that's a good thing, because they were very bad. They were very corrupt people, very corrupt, and they hurt our country very badly with the weaponization. They used the Justice Department to go after their political opponent, which in itself is illegal. And obviously it didn't work.
Are you going to impose tariff on the European Union?
What does that mean?
Are you going to impose tariff too on the European Union, like you are going to do for Mexico and Canada?
Well, you're asking me a question, because I'm sure you didn't hear. Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? You want the truthful answer, or should I give you a political answer? Absolutely. Absolutely.
There you go. So as you can see, guys, this is not live. This is a pre-recording, but it was live like 30 minutes ago. So that's what we're watching right now. So all those quotes we got at 3:50, that's from this press conference that happened. So here's Trump saying, absolutely, tariffs on the EU are happening.
The European Union has treated us so terribly.
You promised Americans to try to reduce costs, and so many of the products that would be tariffed when they come into the country, the outgoing country is not paying the tariff. The buyers in the United States pay that, and then that's passed on to consumers in most instances.
Sometimes.
How would you expect to have prices come down if you have such a broad plan for tariffs? And what do you say to the voters who want to see you reduce everyday costs?
Well, let me just tell you that I got elected for a lot of reasons. Number one was the border. Number two was inflation, because I had almost no inflation. And yet I charged hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs to countries. And think of it, I had almost no inflation and took in $600 billion of money from other countries. And tariffs don't cause inflation, they cause success, cause big success. So we're going to have great success. There could be some temporary short-term disruption, and people will understand that. I had that when I negotiated some of the good deals for the farmers. And unfortunately, those deals have been led astray by Biden and his people because they didn't enforce the deals. We have a deal with China, which is phenomenal for the farmers, but there was nobody to enforce it in the Biden administration. They let them get away with murder. So that's another thing we're going to be bringing.
Do you accept
They
the
committed.
principle
Wait a
of
minute.
costs
They
being passed
committed to
on?
buying $50 billion worth of farm product, and they did it when I was president. As soon as I left, they stopped doing it because there was nobody in Biden to enforce it. But the tariffs are going to make us very rich and very strong, and we're going to treat other countries very fairly. But if you think about it, other countries charge us tariffs. We don't charge them tariffs. And it's about time that changes.
Sir, are you concerned about the market reaction around tariffs?
No, no. Tariffs, the word tariff is a very misunderstood word. You've heard me say, I say it kiddingly, but it's one of the most beautiful words in the dictionary. It really is. And we've been taken advantage of because others have charged us VATs. As an example, the European Union charges us 20% plus a VAT tax, called a VAT tax, very similar. And it costs us an absolute fortune. We are treated so badly. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products, essentially. They don't take almost anything. And we have a tremendous deficit with the European Union. So we'll be doing something very substantial with the European Union. We're going to bring the level up to where it should be. And if you think of the European Union, then you go to NATO, it's largely the same group of countries. Until I came along, I mean, we were paying almost 100% of NATO only to get bad trade deals. And now it's been evened out, but very unfair having to do, it was evened out pretty good. Actually, I did a good job. They paid $440 billion if you look at the Secretary General's report, and he was here recently and he said that. He said one of the most amazing things I've ever seen is what President Trump was able to do with these countries of Europe, of which he was in charge of them, but he couldn't get them to pay. I went over, I said, you got to pay. And if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. It's very simple. But very unfair is with Ukraine because we're in for $300 billion plus, and they're in probably for $100 billion. There's a $200 billion difference, and they need it more than we do. You know, we have an ocean in between. They don't. And so they're going to have to step it up a little bit.
With efforts to reduce the federal workforce, whether it's offering what we've called the buyout package or other efforts, do you have any concerns that there will be employees broadly across the federal government who might take that up? And they're a part of the many different ways that agencies protect the public, from food inspections to water safety to
I
the
know,
air
but
traffic
everybody's
controllers.
replaceable, and we'll get very good people to replace them if it turns out to be more than we thought. It could be a lot, it could be a little, we don't know, but we'd love to have them leave. We're trying to remember this. We want them to go into the private sector. It's our dream to have everybody almost working in the private sector, not in the public sector. We have many people, very few people came to work. They were, you know, it started more or less with COVID, but actually even before COVID. But it started with the COVID, they didn't come back. And then Biden let them get away with murder. And they, you know, we had federal workforce, like 4% coming into the office. And that just doesn't work. You know, people can say it does, but it doesn't work. You have to be unified in a group in the office. It's just, it was crazy. You don't know what they're doing. And then at some point, we may ask them to certify that they didn't have two jobs, meaning were they really getting a check from us, the government? And then were they also working a second job and a third job and, you know, on government time? And many of them will say that they did, you know, which is not legal, but it's a problem. It's a problem. No, we want to get that out. We want to clean it out. You know, people have been trying to reduce federal government now for 40 years, 45 years, and they haven't been able to do it. And this is a way of doing it, I think, very nicely. It's sort of a buyout, too. I think we're treating people very good, but people don't come to the office. They won't have a job starting on that very special date. So we'll see how that works out. I mean, nobody knows how that's going to turn out. Everybody might show up to the office and maybe a large number won't show up. But if they don't show up, we've accomplished a very serious goal. We're trying to reduce government.
Does Mr. Musk or any of those associated with your DOGE effort, do they have any direct access through the government systems to how money is dispersed?
No, nothing. No, they are. This has nothing to do also with the federal cutting, you know, with this federal cutting. This is very separate. This is if you don't show up, you don't get paid. But DOGE, I think great progress has been made. We're talking about cutting over $1 trillion of waste. We're talking about waste. We're not talking about we're going to love and cherish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We're not going to do anything with that other than if we can find some abuse or waste, we'll do something, but the people won't be affected. It'll only be more effective and better. And our country, as our country gets richer, the people on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, those people are going to be more secure. If Biden had gotten elected, Social Security was going to fail because the country was failing. It was going to fail. The country was going to fail. And therefore, the Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all of the other things that you may get would not be able to be paid. Our country's getting very strong, and you see it. I think more progress has been made in the last 2 or 3 weeks than has been made in the last 4 years. I think not only has more progress been made in the last 4 years, it's, I'll call it deep progress. We went way backward as a country in so many different ways, from woke to all of the other things that took place that were so bad. You look at Afghanistan, how embarrassing that was. I think Afghanistan really started the problem with Russia and Ukraine. When Putin looked over and he saw how incompetently that was handled, I was getting out, but I was going to keep Bagram. Right now, China has Bagram. I was going to keep one of the biggest air bases in the world. They left it. But I was, other than Bagram, I was going to get out. And I wasn't keeping Bagram for Afghanistan. I was keeping it for China because it's 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. And we were keeping it. So we have a lot of great things happening in our country, and we appreciate that you're here. And I'm really thrilled about Doug, and I'm really thrilled about his friend, Chris Wright, who's a legend in the oil business, right? They keep telling me, Catherine, he's like a legend, and he's a legend too in a lot of businesses. And we have an amazing group of people working with us. There's a man behind me who became a tremendous success. He was not a wealthy man. He didn't start off a wealthy man, and he ended up a wealthy man. And you know, that's a great talent, and he's willing to sacrifice so much and to put it to work for our country. Watch the job he does on the interior, but in particular on really making our country very, very wealthy by utilizing it properly. And at the same time, environmentally, he does it he's very much an environmentalist. He's going to do it very carefully and very painstakingly good. But you just watch what happens. And working with the Department of Energy, where his compatriot, his friend, and also considered the most talented man in the oil business, is the head of the Department of Energy, and they work together. It's almost like a partnership. It really is a partnership. And watch what that does for our country. It'll be a fantastic thing to see. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred.
Okay, there we go. Steve, yeah, you're on. Yeah. What was your raw reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, I got some thoughts around tariffs where I think the market's going to be very choppy and fluctuate over the next couple of months. Ultimately, this is obviously going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to work or it doesn't. And the way that it's going to work, if we get the outcome that I think he wants, is it's going to make a more level playing field, and it's going to create more competition because now you don't have products coming in from overseas that are undercutting the U.S. market. And I think the goal here, what my goal would be, to get more things made in America because that creates more jobs and stimulates the economy. I mean, we got to say, we have been taking advantage for a very long time with tariffs with other countries, but we don't have the same trade agreements, so there's less tariffs on their end coming in with products. So, got to see how it works out. I don't know. The oil question was good. He's only going to bring it up 10% instead of 25%, so that's good. But we got to see how this plays out. If there is a way to make money, companies will figure it out. If we create a landscape where American companies can make more money, they'll figure out a way to do it, and it could create more competition stateside, which is ultimately good.
How do you feel about him saying we will absolutely put tariffs on the EU?
I mean, I'd really have to look into those agreements, but I mean, I don't necessarily have a huge problem with it.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
just think about it like this: if country A charges country B a 20% tariff, the country B only charges country A a 5% tariff, there's a trade imbalance.
Right.
And it may be cheaper to produce products in the other country and then import them in. I mean,
is there any company on the top of your head that would come back to the United States and start manufacturing?
What I was really thinking about is what companies benefit from this. You're going to be surprised with what I say, but Intel, if they can get their stuff together, is going to benefit from that chip tariff.
I could see that
If
happening.
they can get these fabs up, this could create a situation where this really helps Intel out a lot, and companies line up to produce things stateside in their facilities.
We'll talk more about Apple, but do you think at all they would come back to the United States, or in some respects?
Some respects, yes. Some respects, no. I mean, look, they have a very big business out in the EU and in China. And for companies like Apple, they may just manufacture their stuff for Europe in Europe, manufacture their stuff for China in China, and not ship it out. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how they do it right now, but they could segment their business. I don't think it's going to matter that much for Apple.
Yeah, and also Apple's going to have some conditions where they get removed from some tariffs, I think.
There's going to be exceptions for a lot of things.
Exactly.
First couple of weeks will be rocky, but there will be exceptions.
Explain this to me. You're an oil and gas guy. He's bringing it up by 10%. Why would that not shoot oil prices up dramatically?
So Matt would really be the person to talk to on that. But you know what? We produce enough oil and gas stateside. So as long as we are, the short answer is it'll incentivize companies to drill more in the U.S. because there's a spread there for them to make more money.
Gotcha. Well,
it's not like we don't have the capability to produce more, and it's not like we don't produce enough. So putting a tariff on incoming oil, as long as the U.S. oil companies produce more, it's not going to matter.
So I know you said we're going to have to see how this plays out. Obviously, all of us will have to find out for ourselves in the next coming months. But your gut feeling, you think this really rocks the market bad, or what do you think?
Could. I mean, the market went down today based on it. I mean, it could be very choppy. The only good thing is it's happening during a very strong earnings season, and that could stabilize it. But it could. You don't know. I can't predict how this is going to play out. It could be very rocky for a little bit. Ultimately, in the long term, I don't think it changes a thing, and I think it's going to make things stronger. I think there should be fair trade policies and unilateral trade. If we're getting taxed if our companies are getting taxed 20%, then foreign countries should be getting taxed 20% coming in. Simple as that.
Okay, we got a lot of other topics to get to for today's market close. Thank you everybody for being here. First of all, I'm putting Steve's Seeking Alpha in the chat. Steve is, in my opinion, the best author on that platform. And this guy can pump out articles like it's no tomorrow while still being high quality. So if you are here, Steve tends to join us every other day on the show, give his analysis, but his articles have some really good juice in there. So please make sure to follow him there and give a read to the Apple article, which we'll get into right now. So the title, Steve, is Q1 Earnings Proved Why Being Bearish is Crazy. I'll give you the floor. Why is that the case?
Over the long term, Apple has outpaced the S&P and the Qs. Anybody who has been bearish on Apple has missed out on an opportunity year in, year out. Apple was the only thing that held the market up for quite some time in 2022. Ultimately ended up going down, but it led the market higher in the rebound. It's the most profitable company in the market. People talk about no growth. People talk about it's not innovative. People come up with ridiculous bear cases. The problem with the bear cases, the only one I can agree with was, past tense, no growth on revenue. Because everything else was an opinion. Whether I like the products and somebody else doesn't like the products, those are two opinions. The only thing that matters is the raw data, and the raw data says that they are selling over $100 billion worth of products almost every quarter. That they are generating $100 billion or $90 to $100 billion worth of net income on it every year. They just produced $34 billion in net income in 3 months. I mean, I don't have the article in front of me, I'm driving, but the breakdown on those numbers, they were making, I think, $2.7 billion a week in profit.
Right.
That's more. I mean, think about this. Is your community loves Palantir. By the way,
Hold on. This is our community, first of all. Second of all, don't isolate yourself from Palantir. Okay, we got a lot to talk about on Palantir.
Hold on. Karp's interview was amazing on CNBC. Amazing. But what I was going to say is like they profited the amount of revenue that Palantir is going to generate in a week.
I get it. I just didn't like how you said your community, because you're part of the Palantir community
your
too.
channel.
So I'm just making sure, buddy.
No. I mean your community. It's your channel. Your community on your channel. People that watch. I'm just saying. I'm trying to put it in reference, right? The amount of money that they are generating, and you put it on a per day basis. I mean, this is by far the most profitable company. So the only thing that matters is the consumer opinion, because they're the ones that are opening up their checkbook. And even though this has been a no-growth company for quite some time, and as we found out the other day, you have multiple Apple products and you pay a monthly fee to services for cloud or whatever. There's a lot of people that do that. And it is very hard to get. So it's like Coke and Pepsi. People who drink Coke are not going to drink Pepsi. It just doesn't happen. I won't drink Pepsi. I want Coke. If a restaurant doesn't have Coke, I'm getting ginger ale because I'm not drinking Pepsi. And the worst thing is a Pepsi with pizza. I just, no, not happening. But that's exactly what it is with Android and iOS. Same thing with Mac versus PC. People are not going to an Android phone from an Apple iPhone. It's just not happening. It's like the Mets versus the Yankees. Not happening. Can't
Okay,
root
so
for both.
talk to me about service. Talk to me about services, because Apple added 90 million new users to services in 2024. How do you think that grows over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. I linked an article that I wrote from 2021 where I actually modeled out forward services and said that, or predicted they would generate 100 billion run rate in 2025, which it looks like they're going to do. Services came in at 26.5 billion or so this quarter, Q1 2025, and they grew by 3.3 billion quarter over quarter. I mean, this is a high margin business. It's reoccurring revenue. It's incredibly sticky revenue, and it makes the product ecosystem even more sticky.
Right.
It is just, it's a great compliment. And the bottom line is they're starting 2025 off at the highest level they ever had from revenue. They are in a position to potentially break 400 billion revenue this year. They got back to top line growth, and they're buying back so many shares. You look at it year over year, their EPS year over year in Q1 grew by 29 cents. It's a pretty big bump that it grew by. Their bottom line growth is there through buybacks. Even though you hate it, it's a fact.
I don't hate it.
I just drive it higher. If they get small top line growth and continue to buy back shares, this company is going to continue higher, just as it has for the past decade. And that's what the bears can't get through their head. They can't get it through their head. It is a broken methodology with the bear case, because they try to go on a product level or an innovation level or this level or that level when they're not looking at like raw numbers. And it's funny because some of the comments in the article that I wrote were talking about the valuation. Okay, cool. You don't like Apple at 30 times earnings, whatever it is, 30 or 32 times this year's earnings, and it goes down to 25 times 2027 earnings. You're telling me you'd rather pay more money for Walmart on a price to earnings basis than Apple? Get out of here. Get out of here. That's crazy talk. You'd rather buy Costco at like 45 times or whatever it is than Apple today? Come on. The arguments are crazy.
So I agree with that, but you said the bears focus too much on product innovation. Are you saying we shouldn't care about product innovation?
I'm not saying we shouldn't care. I am saying what the story is how much money they produce. And product innovation is an opinion.
Well, okay, so let's get into the getting rid of the VR headset. So what is your take on that? Is that bad?
I'm not happy. I don't think it's necessarily bad for them from a immediate standpoint. I think it's a long-term opportunity that they're going to miss. The same way that they didn't get into cloud services. Okay, here's my problem with Apple. And even though I'm an Apple bull, and some would say a perma bull with Apple, and to my credit, I haven't been wrong on that. I think they go into things halfway, 1 foot, and they never give it their all. because they kind of test it out. If it doesn't seem like it's working, they make so much money that they can just write it off and it doesn't impact the stock.
Yeah.
They did it with the car. They should have never got into the car business. They should have bought Tesla, is what they should have done. When Musk needed money, they should have bought Tesla and had Musk run it. They didn't. They should have never wasted time after that trying to do a car business. Also, the car business is not their ecosystem, okay? This fits in their ecosystem. This truly does. For them to scrap these plans and give some ridiculous thing about, oh, maybe we'll work on this, maybe we'll work on that. Meta is all in on this. We know because Zuck continuously talks about it, and this is his thing that has nothing to do with a phone, that he's going to be able to own the platform and get a vig from the content. He's not stopping. At some point, computing or entertainment or something, education is going to be off a screen.
So hold on. Here's my question. Here's my question. If they're getting rid of the VR headset, and we can all agree iPhone innovation is likely not going to be substantial, where's the growth coming from besides services?
The top line growth could come from product upgrades of computers. You have a big accessory business. iWatch, like they have products, and we should have some type of upgrade cycle with phones. I mean, a lot of people do change their phone out every 2-3 years. So there's a continuous upgrade cycle with phones. It just may not amount to 5 or 10% a year. It may be 1, 2, 3%. It's a low. This is not a growth company. This is a low, very low growth. And I don't know that it gets to 5 or 10% growth on the top line, but I don't think it has to, because of their profitability. But with the glasses, this is a big problem, because in some point the future is going to be holograms, AR, VR, and Apple should not let that opportunity go away. They really shouldn't, because there's so many applicable applications for this that they need to really focus on form feature of this. Start with content and then work it out to other things. But it doesn't seem like they want to do that for some reason.
Okay, so I want to ask you another question about Apple then. If we are assuming that Tim Cook is right and that China was a problem with inventory, not demand, and that India was one of their best quarters ever, do you think emerging markets is somewhere where they can be creative and get higher growth?
Yes. Yeah, because they make the lower end phones. They have the smaller phones out there. India has been somewhere they've been working on for a while. I don't know how many flagship stores they put up, but they have a couple of big stores out there now. Emerging markets could be very big, and especially if we're going to be in a growth period globally where many families increase their economic standing, they're going to be able to afford more products and make their lives simpler. And that's the biggest thing. When you make more money, you spend money on things that make your life easier. And Apple products makes life easier for a lot of people. So I do think there will be a tailwind on emerging markets for a while.
All right.
Hey, your buddy Dan Ives thinks it's going to 325.
Oh, well, Dan Ives has been touting Apple for a long time. You and Dan have been on the same train. This is the article, guys.
The glasses, they're handing Zuckerberg a win with the glasses.
Yeah, but see, Steven, this is why by the way, I agree with everything you're saying. Apple's probably going to go up. Last night I was telling you I'm going to upgrade my iPhone next year because it's been 3 years. I just don't get picking Apple out of any of the other of the Mac 7s besides Microsoft, because they failed on the glasses. They failed on the car. They're trying to get into robots, but I don't think they're going to be Tesla at the humanoid robot game. Siri and Apple Intelligence. Siri's a failure after 10 years. Siri's a failure. That's the issue that I have.
Let me ask you something. Have I ever said that Apple is going to outperform any of those Mag 7 companies?
No, you have not.
And when we have made our list, have I ever put Apple in the top 3?
No, look, I get it. I'm just saying, if you owned it for the past 5 years, you probably don't need to sell it. But Buying it is hard right here.
Yeah, all I'm saying is it's probably not going. All I'm saying is it's probably not going down. And if you're bullish on the market, Apple's probably going to go up. And it's hard to be bearish on a company that generates $100 billion in profit. Very hard to be bearish, especially when they have a 2 to 3 billion device.
I think we lost him.
It's a great company. Let's just leave it at that.
All right. All right. So we got some other topics to talk about. Again, Steve's article is in the description or in the chat. Steve, is this trending on Seeking Alpha?
It was earlier. Oh no, I haven't looked.
All right. Can everyone
But
just?
I do try to interact with everybody. If anybody who reads it leaves a comment.
All right. Everyone, click on this thing so we can get it trending and get Steve to be number one on Seeking Alpha. Let's talk about Palantir. We hit an all-time high today. Going into earnings, what do you think of Karp's interview?
It was incredible, and he's 100% correct. Look, it's a lot harder to be a first mover than a second mover, and it's not nearly as impressive being a second mover than a first mover. And he's been saying a lot of things for a long time, and it looks like he's going to be correct on a lot of these things, and he deserves the victory lap and the flowers. I mean, this is just, he's been right. Others have been wrong. Others have doubted him. He's been right. This is a great company. I think long term, it's going to be a larger market cap than it is today. I just don't think the valuation today works. That's all. You can't take anything away from that. It's an incredible company.
So here's a harder question. Why did Palantir go up before Trump with the tariffs thing? 5%. Why did it break all-time highs in your opinion?
Oh, tariffs don't matter for Palantir.
No, but the whole market took a hit, right? That's my point. So, but before that, at 11 a.m. when everything was peaking.
Listen, people, look, on Monday, this is either going to 120 or 50. That's why people are buying.
Really? You think that's what's happening here?
I mean, all right, maybe that swing's a little too drastic, but I mean, is it crazy to say that on Monday it's going to 95 or 65 or 95 or 70? I mean, it's not going to be 85 at the end of Monday.
That is more. I think it's 65 or 95. I think that's a more acceptable range, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Palantir is not staying sideways after earnings. It's doing one or the other.
Okay, so do you think that big money bought in today before earnings, or you think it was retail?
I have no idea. I wasn't looking at anything, so I have no idea.
The speed at which it went up, dude. I mean, we broke 82, 83, 84 within 20 minutes. And then it took like another 30 to hit 85, or maybe an hour to hit 85. But
yeah, I mean, the only way to know that is if you were actually sitting there on a level 2 machine and looking at volume and how big the blocks were.
We were, and there were some pretty big blocks. I mean, at 85, there was 200,000 shares, and it could have been retail, but it also
it could be. Yeah, it could be institutions.
I know you're about a road rage just now.
No,
okay.
I'm not. But Kathy sold yesterday.
She did. Kathy sold 150,000 shares. She did.
Yeah, she's been selling.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you listened to the whole Karp interview, right?
Yes.
Did it make you more proud to own Palantir?
No, because you can't get more proud than I am to be a shareholder of that company. So no.
Good answer. It's a good answer. My point here in asking this question is,
no matter what happens, I will always be a shareholder of that company.
I think that hearing Karp talk the way he talked today is another reason why retail does not sell their stock, even after being up 10x. And I guess the question
I agree
is,
with that.
I guess my question is, let's give you a hypothetical. Let's say we gap down to 60. Do you think retail sells and takes their wins, or do you think Karp CNBC is enough to keep them holding?
I think if it gaps down to 60, nobody is selling that are long-term investors at the end of the day, because I think that they're just going to expect it's just going to gap back up the way it did last month when it got to 65.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to buy that dip. I think a lot of people are going to buy that dip instead.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, listen, if it gaps down, I'll be buying at some point. I mean, there's a number out there where I will start buying again. It's just not here.
One thing that's really important, I was talking about this yesterday on the market close, Palantir shareholders have not really been through a drawdown besides 2022 when the whole market went down. Like, for example, Tesla shareholders have went through 60% drawdowns multiple times. We've only really experienced in the Palantir community 2022, and since then is some stagnation, and then we went straight up. So I don't know.
You've had a little bit of, you've had a very small retracement here and there, but you've never really had a big drawdown. And stocks do not just go up. And when you have this type of trajectory, it's very hard to sustain it indefinitely.
100%. And Amazon, Nvidia, I mean, all these guys have fallen 60 to 70% before. So I don't know if that
Look
has.
at Meta. Meta fell to 92.
Yeah. That's
for
fair.
no reason.
Okay, so we will see what happens.
This is going to be a hard quarter.
I think it's going to be one of those quarters.
Everybody should be.
Go ahead.
Everybody should be on pins and needles right now, waiting for Monday, because this is going to be a very tough comp. Because everybody's expecting a miracle, and everybody's expecting huge guidance, and we don't know what is going to make the street sell this off. But if both are not incredible, and look, the amount of EPS generated is probably not going to be anything crazy. So I'm not expecting, hypothetically, if the street's looking for 10 cents in EPS in Q4, I'm not expecting a 20 or 25 cent with a huge blowout. Okay. I mean, a lot of things need to go right for this to keep going up at this rate.
I agree. And I think guidance is going to be the determining factor. But if they have the goods when it comes to the numbers and you got Carp being Carp, I mean, it could get pretty.
And you know what can make it even better?
What?
I'll give you one guess.
What could make it even better?
I'll give you one. Take a guess. Yeah, take a guess.
What could make the earnings even better? I don't know. I have no idea.
If Jocko Willink
is
the operator.
Okay. Steve, we're trying to get 35% growth. We don't need Jocko. We don't need... That would make it better.
Yes, you need Jocko Willink to introduce everybody. Yes, you absolutely do.
So I put a poll in the chat, Palantir after hours on Monday. 56% of people said it's more likely to be 65 than 95.
I mean, look, it's a very tight race. I did not expect it to be a very big swing or an outright bullishness or bearishness. I think this could go either way. This is a coin flip on what's going to happen. There is no clear-cut picture on this.
That's correct. And by the way, guys, retail selling on Palantir has actually been pretty substantial. On Robinhood, look at the last 10 days, all red, because Robinhood allows you to see retail sales.
Really?
All red since January 11th to the 29th. So retail's been taking
You can't
profit.
be mad at anybody for locking in these profits.
No, of course
I mean,
not.
These are big profits for a lot of people.
No,
I would bet that run a poll to see if everybody's average is under 20, because I would say that most people that are in your chat right now have a cost basis of under 20. I don't want to say under 15 because I don't know if that's realistic, but under 20, I would say 70 to 75% are going to say under 20 is their cost basis.
Okay, so I'm going to do under 20. I'm going to do 20 to 30. We'll do 40 to 50. And we'll do 50 plus. Let's see what people say. Let's see. I would say 20 to 30 is going to win this for most people. Oh, nope, under
Well,
20.
they could, but I think a lot of people were buying from 8 to 16.
Oh, yeah, you're right. 42% under 20. Wow.
I mean, I thought it would have been higher, but a lot of people were buying under 20. So you can't be mad at people for locking in a 4 or 5x.
I missed 30 to 40 on the poll, guys, but we can only have 4 options. So, yeah, it seems under 20 is the majority of people. All right. Well, look, at the end of the day, if the stock goes to 60 or 90, like if we're in this for the long term, we're in this for the long term for the most people, for the majority of people.
Yeah, and retracements are healthy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of retracements, let's transition to NVIDIA. It's officially a week or 5 days since the collapse. NVIDIA closed at 120.07. It's 119 after hours. What are your thoughts 5 days after this whole DeepSeek meltdown?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not back at 130 plus.
Why?
But it is what it is. I think that this is going to be a crazy quarter with profitability. I don't think people really grasp how in demand these chips are. And I cannot wait for their earnings report.
But it's not back at 130. So here's the question, right? Because this is the beauty of the stock market. Either all of us that have been buying NVIDIA here and holding it are wrong, or the street's wrong. It's one or the other, right? So why do you think the street's wrong? I guess Steve decided to go buy some more NVIDIA because he left. He probably went into his garage and his connection just got hit. But anyway, the point I was making, he'll probably be back in a second. The point I was making is that either the street's wrong or we're wrong. And the fun thing is about the market, when the street's wrong and you're right, you get a really good opportunity to go long on something, and then the street eventually catches up, aka Palantir, Hood, etc. And that creates astronomical gains for people, or at least decent gains based on how you position it. So I guess we're gonna have to see who's right, the street or retail buying the dip. Yeah, Steve should be back in like 5 minutes. Every time he pulls into his garage, the service gets hit. Joseph says, "Amit, please hold me on this. I'm terrified." I did get a message from someone a couple of minutes ago or a couple of hours ago talking about why they're... Actually, I'll read it to Steve right here. This is actually a good message to bring up. Steve, you're back.
Yeah, when I drive into the basement, drive into the garage, sometimes it cuts out.
Do you want to take 5 minutes and then come back, or are you good?
No, it's fine.
Aren't you about to get into an elevator?
Yeah.
Isn't that going to mess up the service?
No, not right now.
No.
No,
Okay.
I'm good. I'm staying here.
Okay, cool. So let me read you a message I got from a NVIDIA shareholder who has 10,000 shares with a $30 average. Okay. He says, "Hi, Amit. I'm really torn on NVIDIA because of these 4 reasons. Number 1, Trump will likely order a complete ban on any chips to China, which would be a $5 billion revenue hit to NVIDIA. Number 2, Trump will have tariffs on chips that are not made in the US. Number 3, Trump is investigating chips sold to Singapore destinations in case those destinations illegally go to China. And number 4, the general uncertainty caused by DeepSeek and momentum is shifting away from NVIDIA. They're playing basically defense instead of offense when it comes to their leader as like the golden stock of the stock market. And as a result, this person with 10,000 shares at a $30 average post-split is very concerned right now." How would you respond to those arguments, Steve, for why being bullish at 120 is still a good idea? You are muted, by the way.
Unbelievable. I'm looking at it from a revenue and growth perspective, and we don't know what the final number on tariffs is going to be. And even if they have it by tariff, they're getting so much money, buying back so many shares, I don't think it's going to matter. And their growth rates are still going to be the highest in the Mag 7. Look, their profit margin's 53%. Think about that, 53% profit margin. That's more than Apple's gross profit margin. So I'm not really worried.
Well, what if those
and I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, anyone could be wrong, but do you think those gross margins could get hit? Like, do you think they can sustain it? I guess is the broader question.
I mean, they've been able to sustain it for quite some time, actually. So I'm not too worried about it. I think that the demand's going to outstrip tariffs. I think there's so much demand for this stuff. Look at the picture on X with Altman and Jensen. I mean, it's just, there's so much demand for this stuff.
Also, so I'm going to bring that picture up. That was Altman talking about the Blackwell chip. Google announced today that they just installed their Blackwell chips for Google Cloud. So, I mean, it's hard to imagine the hyperscalers necessarily don't upgrade to the highest level chips.
These companies have to. It's not that they won't, they have to, because they can't let any of their competitors have an edge on them. You're not using, okay, if you are racing somebody, okay, and somebody is racing with a Ferrari, you're not going to take a pickup truck, because that's what the previous generation chips become when the new generation chips come out.
Yeah, and the thing is, all this inference training that people want to talk about, that I genuinely believe, from at least the research I've done, is just historically going to create more demand, but make it cheaper to train, which is good, because then everyone's going to want to train, which means they're going to need more chips. Like, it should expand the TAM versus decrease the TAM. It should just make it a lot easier for the average tech company to do more inference training without having to worry about all the architecture that is needed from before. So, I mean, if that spend's not slowing down, I think that's going to be important.
I agree with what you said.
All right, that's what we got on NVIDIA, Palantir. I guess last one I'll give to you here for the day. We do have some earnings coming up next week. Well, last two. We'll do Google and Amazon. So first with Google, do you expect them to crush it?
I expect both of them to crush.
Okay, so tell me first, Google, why do you expect them to crush?
Did you see Meta's numbers?
I did.
Okay. We just went through a crazy presidential cycle. We just went through a big election cycle from many different countries. Meta is the yardstick right now. Alphabet, going to be big. It's going to be big numbers.
Do you think, is there any sector of the business, cloud, Waymo, YouTube, that you're looking forward to the most?
Yeah, cloud, because you know what? As your revenue slowed, somebody picked up that growth, and I think it's going to be Alphabet and Amazon.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I think they're going to accelerate the pace of their buybacks, which is...
Same here. So you like buybacks for Alphabet, but you don't like buybacks for Apple. I got you.
I've never hated buyback. I like buybacks for Robinhood too. I love buybacks. The problem is, if buybacks is the thesis, I feel like there's an issue right there. You know?
I gotcha.
Okay, so that's Google, and I'm going to put in the chat right here. The next poll is, which one are you more bullish on next week? Amazon, what are you looking for them?
I would like to see their free cash flow margin expand a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But I am very interested to see how much top line growth grows by. I want to see more profit out of international sales, and I want to see margins expand a little bit.
I want to see operating income margins get above 12%. I think the street would go crazy if they could do that. I think it was like 10.
Yeah.
It was 11.1% last quarter.
Yeah. I agree.
That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they could do that.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so then final question for you, Steve, and final question for the poll in the chat. Which one do you think outperforms? It's 50-50 right now next week, Google or Amazon on a percentage basis?
That's so hard because Amazon's such a great name, but Alphabet is so undervalued that it's a toss-up.
I'm going Google. I think Amazon might be up. I think both will crush. Amazon, if Amazon's up 5%, I think Google's up 7%. But granted, we thought Meta and Microsoft would see the same, and Meta crushed, but they couldn't really hold 700. Microsoft just got hit badly. and Tesla ended up being the best performer. So
It's funny how that works out.
I mean, Tesla's going to 20 trillion. Microsoft might not go to 5 trillion. So
I'll take that bet if you want to make that bet.
no, 5 trillion. If the
you
bet
want to
is
make that bet that Microsoft doesn't get to 5 trillion, I'll take that bet all day.
no.
I will give you up.
Here's the bet. I would bet you Tesla gets to 10 trillion before Microsoft does.
Tesla gets to 10 trillion before Microsoft does.
So I'm betting on a 10x versus a 3x happening before Microsoft.
I'm not going to take that bet for the simple fact that
Come on, you got to take. I'm saying
Hold on.
I'm saying a 10x would happen before a 3x. You got to take that bet.
No, I won't take that because I think Tesla can get to 10 trillion over the next 10 years if a lot of things go right. And I think it's going to be hard for Microsoft to get to 10 trillion over the next 10 years.
But if that's the case, why wouldn't you buy Tesla over Microsoft right now?
No, I don't own Microsoft. I own Tesla.
No, I get it, but you've been pretty annoyed at Tesla's valuation, which I understand. But why?
For the short term. I think it's ridiculous.
What does that mean? What do you mean for the short term?
For the short, I think today the valuation doesn't make sense, and it's a ridiculous valuation. Doesn't mean that it can't grow into it or that it can't become more profitable. I just think it's crazy what people are paying for it. That's all.
But it's not that ridiculous then, right?
Sure.
I mean, there's a scale to how ridiculous it is. But isn't that crazy?
And it's pretty high on the scale considering that the scale includes a lot of what ifs. So.
What I think is crazy is that both of us and a lot of people in the chat actually think Tesla can 10x before Microsoft 3x's. I mean,
I agree. I mean, now if the bet was Tesla getting to 10 trillion before Microsoft gets to 5 trillion, I would take that bet, but I wouldn't take 10 or 10.
Yeah, I don't think I would take that bet either. I would take 10 over 10. Instead.
Yeah, look, I've never said Tesla doesn't have incredible potential. Never said that. It's just, you want to say 20 trillion versus 10 trillion, maybe I'd take that bet. But
yeah.
Look, it's not going to be easy for Microsoft to get to 10 trillion.
I agree, and it's not going to be easy for Tesla either, but
Tesla's got more firepower, more potential firepower to get there, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without a question.
All right, everybody. That is it for today. We have officially ended out the week. I am putting Steve's Seeking Alpha in the chat. Again, please make sure to check him out on Seeking Alpha. Give him a follow. His articles, again, I think are the best articles on the entire platform. And I get smarter reading them. Yeah, I get smarter reading them every time.
I think I'm going to start breaking boxes of sports cards on YouTube.
I think you have the personality to talk for 6 hours and do that. I think you can.
I am serious. Once tax season is over, I think I'm going to start a whole big sports card breaking thing on YouTube in my free time that I have very minimal of. I'm going to find 10 or 15 hours a week to do it.
Well, I think a lot of people would want to tune into that. And I think you could entertain people while you rip up Pokemon cards.
That's a good idea. Baseball, football, basketball, no Pokemon. Sports.
Rip and ship?
Not rip and ship. I think I'm just going to break and do analytics on the boxes and all that stuff. Maybe I'll vlog from sports card shows or something. Who knows?
Dude, you should do it. You have the personality for it.
I think I'm going to do it.
All right. Well, I will be there to support if you do it.
Thank you.
All right, Steve. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Later.
All right, guys. What a week. What a freaking week, dude. NVIDIA collapses on Monday. Kind of recovers, kind of doesn't. Palantir, its all-time highs, probably could have held at least 84 until Trump comes out with a barrage of statements around tariffs. And then we have earnings coming up tomorrow, which is, or not tomorrow, on Monday. And so we got a lot to talk about. going into Monday's Q4 2024 earnings. Palantir Weekly will be tonight, so I'll be live again at 11 p.m. I'm going to take a nap before earnings. I legitimately think I slept at 2 to 3 a.m. every day this week, and I wake up by like 7:30. So I can feel it right now. Like I just haven't slept, and I think it's time to take a little bit of a nap. But I have so much energy on the streams because there's so much happening in the markets. It's like, how could you not have energy? But I'm definitely about to collapse, dude. I need to sleep. I need to get a little bit of sleep so that we can do Palantir Weekly. And yeah, we'll be talking about all the numbers on Palantir Weekly. I think Arnie will join me, even though he's traveling right now. Arnie, Amir, and Matt. And we'll be going through all the revenue projections, numbers, bull, bear case. That's going to be more quant heavy. So, I mean, we'll talk about Karp's interview, but the majority of the show will be focused on the numbers. And we'll try to make sense of what we expect going into earnings. Michelle said, I just finished rowing. Wait, like rowing? Like in a river? Like rowing on a boat? You're watching the stream while you're rowing right now? Or you mean like rowing in a gym? Is that a machine or something? There's no way you're watching the stream while you're doing this shit right now, bro. There's no way. Oh, man, that's wild, bro. Out of all the places that people have said they consume the content. Oh, you have a machine. Okay, gotcha. I was like, what? You're out in an ocean rowing right now? What? That'd be cool though, right? Wait, there's like you guys have rowing machines at your house? Hold on. Rowing machine gym? Oh, this thing. Oh, this is not as cool as being out in the water, but okay, cool. So there you go. There you go. It's a great workout. I've never done. I think I've seen this machine once or twice before. I don't have it in mind. We have a treadmill at home, not this. We have the bike at home as well, but I use the treadmill more than the bike. All right, cool. So that's it for me. We'll be back. Palantir Weekly. S&P 500 ended out the month up 2.7%. I'm going to make a post on Twitter about all the month-to-date returns in the broader stock market. It looks like Palantir ended up about 10% for the month, which is not too bad, ending out at 82.49. Again, we will have Weekly tonight. We'll be discussing earnings on Monday. And I guess the key themes for February are now tariffs, NVIDIA, CPI inflation, and then what other potential swings we could get from Trump on a variety of different policies. One thing I will say about Trump, dude, we got a press conference pretty much every single day over the past week. Like every day Trump is live. And I don't think a president of the United States has been live as much as Trump has been live in the past week. So love or hate the content we're getting, he's definitely putting out a ton of stuff for everyone to consume and getting his policies and ideas out there. Last thing I'm going to end the show with today. First of all, I don't know if she's watching, but if she is, I hope she is. Scarlett, the lovely woman who knitted me an entire Palantir scarf and hat that I wear every day. Literally, I wear this thing every day when I go outside. She just sent Iliano 3 new Palantir scarf and hat sets for him, Dr. Karp, and Shyam Sankar. I mean, this is beautiful, dude. This is absolutely beautiful. This is just the coolest thing in the world. Shout out to Scarlett. For those that don't know her, she bought Palantir at 7, doubled down to 15, and she is very adamant to me about not selling a single share. So I know today was probably a fun day for her, getting us to all-time highs. But absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Very, very wholesome. And thank you, Scarlett, for sending that to Iliano. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody, for the love on the stream today. Thank you for the love on the stream the entire week. It's been a hell of a week. Had a lot of stuff to cover. We're only going to get deeper into the content in February. We've got Google and Amazon next week, which are going to be very, very important to end out Q4 earnings, along with Palantir on Monday. So that's going to be our Super Bowl. And then we got Google and Amazon to end out big tech, and then NVIDIA towards the end of the month. So we do have about 4 weeks until NVIDIA. And then second week of February, I'll be in California. So that's going to be a pretty busy week as well. I'll be up very early to do the market open, 5:45 a.m. every day. I need to make sure I wake up every morning at 5:45 to do the show. But February is also going to be a pretty jam-packed month for everything we got going on. All right. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you on Palantir Weekly. If not, I will see you on the Sunday Futures show at 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard. Love you guys. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys later today. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.